Hello, YouTube, and welcome back. Did you miss me? No, I can't say that. I know nobody's watching this, so there's no one to miss. Whatever. Um, Last week, boom. See, I'm gonna do the thing where I put it over there, where my finger points. My finger point. Oh man, see, I should have used that as my clothing. My finger point. But don't concentrate on the finger, or you miss out on all that heavenly glory. Anyway, wow, I'm already going off crazy on the quotes. Um, yeah, I don't know if any of this is usable so far. Okay, so the last topic I brought up last week was the fat shaming, and then I started talking at the end about the born this way mentality or whatever. I don't know what you want to call that. I call it an excuse. Born this way, and as hopefully you don't know what this picture is on my monitor right now. That's actually Lady Gaga's music video for Born This Way, and I just watched it a few minutes ago. If you don't have to watch it, don't. Don't. I wouldn't recommend that Hitler be forced to watch it. Well, maybe Hitler should be forced to watch this on repeat. So maybe Pol Pot, Stalin, and Hitler, maybe I could see their eyes being, forced open with toothpicks and being forced to watch this on repeat. I can't think of that many people that I would want to have to watch this, and yet it has 186 million views. What is wrong with people? This is quite possibly the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It's an assault on all of the senses. Well, except for maybe smell, but I'm like the Family Guy joke about Christina Aguilera. It looks like she would smell like garbage, and like this entire video would smell like human feces. I I've seen Cronenberg movies, and nothing has ever disgusted me like this. Cronenberg movies, granted, are freaking weird, but this is next level. What is wrong with people? That's. I don't have words to describe how awful this is. Anyway, that was way too long on the tangent because that was just something I was gonna either play in the background or splice into my video. No, I will not subject anyone else to that. Oh, I hate myself for even thinking that there was anything remotely salvageable from that monstrosity. So, I called it an excuse. Born this way. So I guess I have to lay the foundation that I don't care who you sleep with. But I guess there's a caveat to that. I don't care who you sleep with as long as they're okay with you sleeping with them. It's got to be consensual. They have to be of age and able to consent. So no passed out drunk women behind dumpsters. No unconscious anybody. No underage anything, because what the hell's wrong with you? But aside from that, I don't care. If you have like a 17-person orgy or whatever, as long as everybody's okay with that sort of thing, or I don't care, whatever. That's your choice. And as long as you're not infringing upon anyone else's rights, as long as you're not taking away anyone else's humanity, then have at it. Stop using the excuse of born this way, though. You are not the same as how you were born. I touched on this in the last video. I'm going to re-elaborate and expand on this idea. So when you were born, you were a chubby, whiny little blob that crapped on themselves and couldn't do anything. Over the years, you've changed, and thank God. Thank God that everyone is not just rolling around and crying all day long as adults. Sadly, there are still people who do this, who are adults and act like babies, and they'll throw tantrums and cry and wet themselves or all that sort of thing. And case in point, Trigglypuff. That's what that is. That is a adult baby, or a baby in an adult body. Zero self-control, everything handed to her. Yeah. Anyway, that's fat shaming. No, I went over that in the last video. It's not just because she's obese and unhealthy. There's something mentally wrong with that person. It's sad, really, but they did it to themselves, so I can't have too much sympathy because it's the way that they treat other people. I feel anger towards the people that let them do that let them go through life thinking that that's how they can act and how they can be. People that tell them that they should be happy with how they are and not try to change, not take conscious effort to change who they are. Because that's what you've been doing your entire life. Is you've been making conscious choices to change your behavior. Oh, and this goes into a huge other tangent. But while I'm talking about the subject, who you are right now is not who you were when you were a baby. Alright? We've established that. Said when you were a baby, you crapped on yourselves, you cried, you were a roly pudge, you couldn't do anything. But you gradually learned to crawl, and then to walk, and then talk, and, all of these things that you expect of someone growing up, because they learn about the world. You start reading, you start writing, you start becoming an adult. You start taking responsibility, you eventually learn to drive. You graduate from school, you may go to college, you start working, you start providing for yourself, you move out on your own, and you provide for yourself. You become independent. That's the process. Throughout that entire process, you are making transitions. You are changing how you were when you were born to how you are now. So the born this way excuse doesn't apply because you've been changing your entire life. You have been changing, you've been transitioning. And here's the thing that people don't quite understand. Now, there's an experiment that was performed. It's a famous experiment. You may have heard it referred to as Pavlov's dog. So the experiment was they would ring a bell. They would go to the dogs, measure the amount of drool that the dogs were generating, and then they would bring out a steak and then measure the amount of drool after the steak. So that was the experiment. And eventually they would ring the bell, bring out the steak, ring the bell, bring out the steak, and over days of this, and eventually they got to the point where they would ring the bell and not bring out the steaks, and the dogs would still produce the saliva because they're expecting the steak. And it got to the point where they could just ring the bell and the dogs would have the same reaction to a steak that is in front of them, but it's just to a bell. They've removed the steak from the situation, and they get the same results as if there was a steak in the situation. This happens throughout everyone's life because we are creatures of habit. We do, when you're a child and you're trying to do something and learn something new, there's often a reward. Like the first time you use the potty. How do you get your kids to do that? Well, generally you show them what you want done, and when they do it right, you reward them. And so they keep doing that because they expect the reward, and they expect the reward, and they expect the positive re-encouragement. And eventually they do it on their own without the positive encouragement. And it becomes habit. And eventually gets to the point where you feel weird if you ever have to use the bathroom in the woods. To the point where, you go to the toilet when you need to pee, and you feel weird when you do it outside. Because it's so natural, it's become such ingrained into who you are, the habit of using the bathroom. You didn't start off doing that. You started off just, wherever. You would pee wherever, you would poop wherever, you didn't care. But now you do care. Now it feels weird, and you're like, holding it in, I need to find a bathroom. when it's become so ingrained into you that you will actually, some people, you can actually cause harm to yourself by holding it in. That's just medical. If you hold it in too long, and yet now we've got to the point where on a long car trip, you could easily pull over to the side of the road, get out of your vehicle, and take a whiz on the side of the road. And yet you'll find yourself looking at the exit sign and being like, okay, there's a rest stop, 2 miles. I can make it 2 miles. I can make it 2 miles. I can hold it in for 2 miles, right? I don't know if anybody else has done this, but I've done this. And you're like, okay, I'll just wait till It's because it's so ingrained to you that you have to use the bathroom on a toilet. That you have to relieve yourself in the toilet. That it feels weird, it feels abnormal. It feels like you were born to use a toilet. Hopefully you got the analogy here. Many of the things that you do that feel so natural and feel like such a deep part of yourself are learned behaviors, and it was from step A to B to C, and eventually step B disappeared and you didn't notice. So now it feels like A and C have always been, whenever A happens, C happens. But the idea that you're born this way means that you're a victim, that you can't change, that you can't decide to do anything differently, that you have to. The born this way mentality is the I wish I didn't have to be this way, but I can't help myself. Okay? So, yeah, I know my brother said something about dead air, but that was to emphasize the point. That's what that mentality gets you. It's a sense of regret, and yet you do what you do. You know who else would express something like that? A serial killer who regrets killing is like, oh, I wish I could stop, but I can't help myself. That's what you associate yourself with when you use the born this way mentality. I'm genetically or whatever, I just have to be homosexual. No, what? You can have a sexual attraction to the opposite sex and never be homosexual, because it's the actual choice to engage in that activity that makes you homosexual. Can't believe he said that. Like, it's the distinction between wanting to kill someone and actually going through with killing someone, because there's lots of people that I have wanted to strangle. There are lots of people that are like, oh, I would take a shovel and just smash them in the head. You know what stops people from doing those sorts of things? Not committing the actual act. Knowing that exercising it's just knowing that that's not going to solve anything and that's going to make things worse. But there's also that's another human being. Sure, they're a moron. Sure, they're making my life miserable. But I don't have the right to do that to them. So, the born this way excuse is the I wish I could change, but I can't, because it's the I have no self-control excuse. That's what you're telling everyone. That you are going to do something that you have no self-control to stop yourself from doing. It may be detrimental to yourself and you just don't care. There's other aspects that I'm not just talking about homosexual sex at the moment, but that is the main topic of this video, is the homosexual sex. So what I'm saying is that excuse, the I can't control myself, can be used for a lot of very negative and destructive things. Why would you subject yourself to that, to falling into that same category? If you are gay and you actually want to, if you actually enjoy that or whatever, I don't care. It's none of my business. Just leave me out of it. But if that's what you want to do, embrace that. Tell people, I don't care if I was born this way, this is what I choose to do. And you let them know that your actions are not harming anyone else, that you're not imposing your view of the world or your actions, your activities upon other people. Just be that kind of person. How difficult is that? Now, see, there's a problem with the entire gay community, and it's not the fact that you're committing homosexual acts. We don't care. Nobody cares if you want to do that or whatever. The problem is that you're not keeping it between you and the person that you're engaging in that activity with. You have to make it everyone else's business, and they have to approve of it. Why? Why do you have to bring everybody and include them into your wedding if they're like, no thanks, not mine. I don't want to. No, thank you. I'm out. No, and you're like, oh, that person is a bigot. They have to be. I'm like, no. Think about anything else in your life. If you enjoy a movie and somebody else that you know does not, do you drag them along and bring them to that movie with you? And they're like, no, I hate this movie. I hate this actor. I hate this director. Why am I a part of this? Or if they're, like us, if they were dragged, if you tried to force someone to watch Lady Gaga's Born This Way music video, then I'd have serious problems with you. Because I hope I never have to see that eyesore ever again. And I would tell you that. And if you said, oh, no, you're just viewing it wrong or whatever. No, I would. That's probably where I think, I am not a fan of violence, and I embrace the non-aggression principle. I might have to break it for that in order to smash you in the head with a hammer for trying to force me to watch that monstrosity again. Like I'm saying, there are things that people can enjoy that other people do not enjoy. In which case, you don't have to drag them along for the ride. Why is there the need to drag everyone else into your thing? Now, you don't see someone who is into taxidermy trying to make you a taxidermist, because you probably think that's disgusting. I find it very disgusting to cut open animals and, remove all their insides and replace it with metal wires and glue and slap it together and put it up on a frame and make it look like it's actually alive or doing something. That's disgusting. I don't know why people do that to their pets. That's disturbing beyond belief to me. But hey, if they want to do that, go ahead. That's kind of the same thing of you being homosexual and trying to invite everyone else in. Now, if you see the taxidermy thing as something disgusting and morbid, guess what? Other people see your activity in the same kind of manner, as something that they don't want any part of, and it's kind of disgusting, it's kind of weird, and you want them to accept it as normal. No, that's never going to happen, and it shouldn't happen. You can do that, sure. I don't care. Don't make it anybody else's. Don't try to make anybody else be a part of that if they don't want to. Don't use the excuse of born this way, because that's an excuse. It means that you have no self-control, and if things were different, if there was a magic pill that could cure you of it, or that could change your behavior, that you would take it. If that were the case, and I truly dreaded that sort of thing, I wouldn't want to take a pill to get rid of it. I would just stop doing that. So there's a difference between born this way being physical attributes and physical, things about your actual biology and genetics, and what you choose to do with your life. And yes, if you choose to do something that you regret and that you're ashamed of, then stop doing that. If you find yourself unable, like you don't have the willpower or the self-control, talk to a therapist. And granted, a therapist is probably going to say, oh, that's natural, you should stop fighting it. Whatever. I don't know why somebody would give you that advice. That sounds like terrible advice. It's like if something in your head or in your mind is telling you this is not what I want to do, then you probably shouldn't do that thing. It's the same kind of thing, whereas if you've got something nagging in the back of your mind saying, don't do this, going against that sounds like a terrible idea to me. It also kind of negates your born this way excuse if you're like, I wish I didn't have to be gay, but I am because I was born this way. Because that means there's something inside your head that says, no, this is not the way I have to be. There's something in your subconscious that is telling you something's wrong. Now, everyone else will tell you that's because society tells you, no, society is telling you be gay. The LGBT community makes up, 3% of the American population? And yet there's exorbitant amount of representation for the LGBT community on TV. There's a bunch of people that are saying, hey, be gay, don't be a cis heteronormative, be free, be whatever you want. And then I'm kind of going to the be whatever gender you want, but that's more of the topic for the next video, where I'll be talking about trans and all of that, and it's still going to be kind of related to the Born This Way, and how it kind of contradicts everything that you're using as an excuse. I mean, not you specifically, but I mean the gay community. Addressing you, the gay community. The excuse that you use of Born This Way, because guess what? Trans people were born... Anyway, it creates a whole bunch of cognitive dissonance to accept that sort of way of thinking. So this video, again, went on way too long, but it's kind of a deep conversation, and hopefully you learned something. And I'm going to end with this quote. You keep on using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Alright. And that's exactly my thoughts on the Born This Way. You keep on using that phrase. I don't think it means what you think it means.